It all
Hello,
comes down to
everyone.
politics, though, doesn't it?
Huh?
It all comes down to politics, though, doesn't it?
It kind of is the definition of politics, isn't it?
Get them started young.
Hello, Sam.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
You too.
I am back in teaching mode. I am awake again. Let's see. What do we want to start with today? We want to go back to healthcare. And let's go to course. All right, so let me do a little agenda here. So you and Alex caught up with each other?
We have not done so.
Okay. Well, then we may do some filling in other areas in on the fly today. Okay, so we do need to hear from Brittany and Maddie, and Alex and Nick will get together and create something to summarize or whatever is what we did with the other people. Kind of went through the content and the process. Okay, but let's see. Let's.
I think the content can be gone over pretty quickly.
But you haven't done the process yet. I may ask you guys just to do me a little. I'll give you an extra writing question to respond to that.
Yeah, because I just sort of done the
so it doesn't
process on
drag.
my own.
I know, but see, that's why I want you to have an experience where you do go back and forth. It becomes a bit okay. So that's going to be asynchronous. We'll do that. So this will be today, and so put that in brackets. Then I want to maybe do sort of fill in the remaining or some of the remaining healthcare controversies. That's number 2. Number 3 is to talk about next Monday, which is politics, biopolitics. And then the next set of classes is going to be neuroethics, etc. Then 5 will be the the synchronous debates. Some topics and groups and dates. Okay. I have my outline. Somebody, Alex had to leave early today, or he will have to leave early today, but hopefully he'll be here at the beginning so he can make some choices. hold on one second. And then next set of classes, which will be through 420, which will be neuro, and more. And then the synchronous debates for 20 through. You got a calendar open on that?
I do not.
It's the first week of May. So if that's the 20th, 22nd, 27th.
Let's see.
Oh, before 22nd, rather. It would be the 27th.
And 30th. Or 29th.
We're gonna need 4 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, May 6th. Actually through May 4th. And then we'll have that extra day for, okay. Topics, groups, and dates. Okay, there's our agenda for that sort of to discuss for what's coming up. So today, if I could double check, Brittany and Maddie, will you be able to give us kind of a debriefing on your work on the content and the process of the asynchronous debate, the silent debate? Okay. I saw 2 little head shakes. Okay. All right. Nick, as in Alex, Nick has said that you guys still need to actually have something that has a back and forth element to it. Is that fair to say? Okay. So what I'm going to say is, because I don't want to stretch this out forever, I will ask you guys, and I'll share with you, I'll give you a prompt so that you can give me an asynchronous response to the idea of content and process. Then we'll probably have some time then today, if we're only hearing from one group and only discussing one set of topics. We may do some live. So get your book available to you. Get your Pence book available. You need mine if you want a live hardcore book. So I think we'll fill in a few more of those topics just as a live conversation. Then next Monday, we're going to have a focus on what's referred to as, what one author anyway refers to as biopolitics. So I'll go through that assignment with you. And then the next set of classes, so the Wednesday after that through 420. And I don't see Alex here. He said that was the date he's going to have a lacrosse game. He gave me some days where he was going to be at lacrosse. Maybe he thought he could come until 3:30 today, and turns out he wasn't able to. Anyway, so we'll check out his absences. But the next set of classes will be neuroethics and more, sort of some special topics that I've taken out of a second reading. Second set of readings, a second author that I've come across, and then we're going to finish up the last 4 sessions. So April 22nd was a Wednesday, then a Monday and Wednesday following, and then a Monday following that will be actually synchronous debates in groups. So your group, we have to talk about topics, groups, and dates. If you have any dates that you know you won't be here, you need to make sure that you're not signing up to do a synchronous debate on that day. That would be unfortunate, right? Okay, so get your couple things to get out so we can do the business here. Get this out so you're ready with talking a little bit more about the healthcare topics. And get your calendars out. And then give me, just sort of like give this, I'm not going to hold you to these topics, and I certainly have plenty of topics I can present, but I wanted to give people a chance to officially sort of say, hey, how about this? How about this? How about this? So I leave this open. So I'm going to continue to take notes here. Actually, what I'm going to do while you're getting some stuff straight is I'm going to jump back over to the eCollege webpage and show you the two new and final topics that are here. The last thing that will go in here would be the synchronous debate page. So I'll have a page where we can share some of our organization and content for that. So here we've got healthcare. That's what we're finishing today. All right. Biopolitics is where we're going to for Monday. We're going to go sort of introduce this guy, John Marino, and some of his books, some of his writings. And then we'll sort of divvy up the assignment for Monday. So you'll read an introductory chapter, and then you'll have to be responsible for discussion questions. So you'll have to write let me say it while everyone read the introductory chapter and create outline notes document. So basically just, skeleton of your reading notes, and upload that to eCollege. So I know that everybody's getting through that background reading. And then in chapter 6, there are 8 subsections. I'd like you to choose one of these today, and I'd like you to read the whole chapter, obviously, but I want you to prepare 3 non-factual questions that we could use in discussion that would sort of, it would, even if somebody hadn't read the chapter, this question would follow from the reading. I think it's kind of self-evident if you see some of the topics that they're things that everybody has opinions on, but not everybody might not necessarily be informed to the same degree. And then there's 2 short, very short, like 2 pages worth of concluding sections, which we'll all read and sort of be able to sort of pull together to reference. So let's start with that. Let me put this in author mode so I can actually write. Do any of these topics, and if you want to, while I'm yakking on about who Jonathan Marino is, you could actually open this Crossing Lines chapter on your computer. If you want to take a little pre-peek, you might have to, I think it comes out 90 degrees. You might have to turn your laptops around for a second.
You right click.
You can do you can click it around, right. What was I saying? So these subtopics, these segments that you're going to choose from are in that chapter 6. So as I'm going through, just reading through his bio, you can sort of think ahead about, I think I'd like to propose some discussion questions on one of these particular topics. All right, so he has sort of taken over a slot at Penn, at University of Pennsylvania, in their ethics program that Art Kaplan vacated when he moved to NYU, and I guess I'm comfortable kind of delving in a little bit to his writing because last year I finished up a course with him, and had mixed reactions personally. It's this idea of this is like quite the vague comment, right? The most interesting bioethicist of our time. That could mean a lot of things, couldn't it? But he's definitely centered in a lot of conversations, right? So I think it's worth our while to listen to and to pay attention to some of the things that he's saying. I also liked the way it was going to push us sort of outside of the course. His writings are recent enough. One of them's 10 years old, one of them's 2 years old. But these books are recent enough that they're getting us beyond like the classic building of bioethics and now sort of the in some cases, frustrations of using bioethics. This idea of I guess it's in the other Dave stuff. There's something called an impossible profession. Is it considered, or is it possible to say that being an ethicist is an impossible position to have? Because how can you not? It's like being a psychiatrist. How can you not, as a human, interject your opinions, your inclinations, your profiles, etc. So, all right. So, and there's just some of his intersection of bioethics, culture, science, and national security. So, what we haven't spent a lot of time on, because it's probably one of my least, I'm least well versed in this, the idea of like drones, using and bioethics of warfare. But it's giant, right? But it's really kind of hard to come across this information in an analytical way, and he has done this. So I think this is worth our while. Known for like his idea of integrating knowledge, sort of across boundaries. So I think you'll see that as a theme of his writing. He is, he obviously has political connections. I mean, we're not giving balance in terms of political viewpoint here. He's clearly got his connections that are very well established. So I think you're sophisticated enough now to take this and criticize or agree as you are. Okay, so the book that we're going to read from for Monday is called The Body Politic. This is actually the newer of the two references that we're going to use. And as I said, there's an introductory chapter on sort of the politics of biology, and then he goes through a lot of the history of it. So if you're interested in snagging this book and looking at some of the intermediate stuff, certainly hope that you'll do that. But we're going to sort of bookend it and look at the beginning and the end. Okay, so with that little rambling, is there anybody who would like to choose any of these? Minotaur is a fusion. This is the chimera concept, that something is half this and half that. So, there's a bit of a chimera argument going on right now with mitochondrial transplants, right? Okay, I'm seeing some hands go up, so I want to address them as they come up. Jasmine?
Can I do abortion?
Yep. Maddie?
Can I do life from non-life?
You may. I'm trying to keep an eye on hands as I type, just to give you all fair. Anybody else see anything? Fusion and confusion is about hybrids. So there's a difference between hybrid and chimera. Alex?
Can I do privacy, power, and end-of-life decisions?
Sure. Nick?
Can I do biomarking time?
All right, and let's see, Sam and then Brittany.
Can I do fusion and confusion?
None of these are very, they're all like 3-page bits, so it's not like one is like more work than the other. Brittany?
I'll do the crossing boundaries.
Okay, which leaves the chimera, actually one of the more wacky of all of them, to Alex. This is Brittany. And who did I miss? Oh, sorry, Jade, go ahead. You can pick whichever you like that's left. I'm sorry. Jade?
Could I do the Minotaur one?
Sure. All right, so Alex, this is what happens when you're not here. You'll get stuck with something, but they're all fine. Okay, so let's save this. I'll clean up the links so that you don't have to scroll all over the heck of the page. But this is your assignment for Monday, right? And fair game, guys. If you don't have them ready ahead of time, our lesson is shot, right? So, you're grown-ups now. You get to come in and be ready. There'll be 2 Dropbox. One will be for the I'll actually have to relabel the way the Dropbox works. I'll have to relabel. It'll be biopolitics intro and biopolitics discussion questions, something like that. So there'll be 2 different places to put these things in. So if you make it as one document, you can just put the same document in one in both things if you want. All right, questions about Monday? Okay, so then the next set of classes after that is this next section here, neuroethics. And this is another, let's go back to the course view, it's a little cleaner. This is another book from Marino, which I was going to only have us do stuff from this, but then I just really liked the political immersion of the newer book, and so I decided to include that. For this section, the next set of classes, we're going to have, what I'm going to do is to let you all take charge of one lesson as a pair. Okay? So you will have total responsibility for one of these 4 days and zero responsibility for the other of the 4 days, which is, all things considered, it's pretty nice, right? So this is why you need to have your calendar ready. So who would the groups and the dates be for this activity as well? One of these is on cancer, truth, and genetics. So we did a lot of this in medical testing and sharing of medical testing. It won't be brand new, but it definitely is an update from what Pence covered, and more, more specific examples, Okay, then there's another one on neuroethics. There's another one that is referring to what goes on, and this reference, these are also all live links if you want to scan through them. I'm really more concerned about the dates, and I don't really care about the orders, but the order that we do these in. But I do want to make sure that people are available for the dates. So maybe we should focus on who's available on which date, and then worry about the topics choice later. After the terror is bioethics, after the age of bioterrorism, post 9/11. I mean, some people would go back earlier. And the last one is this idea of an impossible profession. It's really reflective of, can we even do this? Is this even a doable task as a policy making or as a control? So let's just talk dates, shall we? Let me go back to author mode. Can we talk dates? Is there anybody who knows that they have a preferred day where they would like to be busy so that they're not busy on alternate days? Looking at your calendar. Maddie.
I'll do the 8th.
Okay, anybody else have any? Jasmine?
The 8th or the 13th is best for me, just in case anyone else has.
Okay, so you'll have a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Nick, you want to jump on a date?
I'm flexible as well. Anything but the 20th. So
we'll say not Nick here.
Yeah, you can put me down for the 15th since that's.
Okay, let's just do that to begin with, and then if we.
Modulate from there.
Yeah. Nick, GS. Okay. Brittany, your hand went up. Then Jade.
Yeah, I'd rather not do the 13th.
Okay. Do you want to pick one? You want to join in on the 15th, or would you rather wait till the 20th?
Sure, but I really want to do neuroethics too, so.
Okay, so we'll put Brittany down here. Okay, and I'm going to put you next to here. You might be inclined towards neuroethics?
Yeah, I was going to do that one. So that works out.
Okay, Brittany. Why do I draw a blank? Brittany, what's your last name? I'm drawing a blank.
Person.
That's right. God. So how old is your teacher? She's getting to be that age. Okay, Jade. Jade? Jade, you have a choice? Hit talk.
Could I do the 13th?
Sure,
The 13th.
of course. Okay. Sam?
I think probably the 20th would work best for me.
Okay. Alex, do you have any?
No, I'm free pretty much
You're
all
pretty
those
free?
days. So, yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we put you, let's see. Okay, so just to make it fair, Jasmine, I'm going to stick you in the first one, right? Just to, so you have the same challenge of getting together as anybody else would. Is that fair?
Okay.
I think it is fair. I'm the one who matters. Okay, and Alex, I'll put you in there, and then but the 20th was definitely a day. No, that was one of the days that he had a sports thing. So we'll put Alex Franz in there and Alex Stearns here. Okay. All right, there's another committed day on your calendar, okay? Now, does anybody else want to, there's no rush about this, but if anybody else wants to, claim or whatever a topic, and remember in this case, you're giving us some content background, some questions to think about. You might look up some quotes. You might look up some media. It might be fun to see some media level stuff, some news level stuff. Maddie, then Jasmine.
I think I'll take cancer, truth, and genetics.
Awesome. That's
Okay.
what I wanted to. So that's perfect.
That's perfect. Oh my gosh, we are so lucky. Jasmine and Maddie. Perfect. Okay. Anybody else? You want to think? So these are both, inherently pretty, you'll find a lot of it. You probably won't find as much information about this, but it'll be a nice kind of philosophical, heady conversation. But it won't, but after the terror, I'm sure you'll find more like media stuff to go with it. And let's figure on, I guess you should figure on, let's say to be fair, I'll write up some more details about this as the time comes. But I think the fair thing is to come up with about a half an hour between the two of you of stuff. And inevitably that may take long with interruptions and questions and whatnot. And then we'll have time for questions and times for follow-up. And if we finish a little early, well then, yay for us. Okay. All right. Any other contributions to this at this point? All right. Then we have one more thing to talk about, whereas this issue will have 422, whoopsie, 422, that'll be a Wednesday. Then we'll have 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th will be a Monday. 429, you still have your calendar there. Can you double check that I haven't messed these up, doing them in my head?
Let's see.
27th and 29th. Yeah, okay. So does anybody, now can we look at these dates? If anybody has any conflicts with these dates. Maddie?
Never mind.
Yay?
Tentative question mark for me in the 4th.
Okay, so we'll say probably not Nick.
I have to check the IB schedule.
I don't think there's any IBs quite starting yet, but I'm not swearing it. Okay, yeah, Maddie.
Probably not the 4th either, or the 27th. I'll just do the 22nd.
Okay, get it out of the way. Okay, anybody else? Jade.
Could I also do the 22nd?
Okay. All right. So you guys can communicate with each other. Hey, you know, what do you think of this topic? What do you think of that topic? I'll put out some choices, but I'm happy to have you bring things to the table too. And this is going to be more, you know, sort of synchronously done. Okay. And I'm well. Never mind. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in lesson planning on the fly. Any other people with issues about dates? Okay, you know what? I will resend this. As an email to continue the organization. I think I might actually do one of those doodle things, right? So we'll do something like that. Okay. So you can look for that organization. We got a little bit of time on our hands ahead of us for that. But anyway, I didn't want to get too far ahead. All right. So that's good organization. Now let's go back and Brittany and Maddie, I'm not sure. Did you share something with me?
Yeah, I just did at the beginning of class.
Oh, okay. Let me unplug for a second so I can turn on my email, and then I'll project it.
I didn't quite get a chance to finish my second part.
Okay.
So the first part's done.
Okay. Well, you finish what you can. You'll finish more, but then we'll still have this conversation about content and process. Okay. Sorry, I'm not finding the mail here. Here it is. Here we go, Maddie. Thank you. I got it. Now, is this the document that you've been working on as well?
Yes.
Okay, so Brittany, are you working on the same document? So if when I haven't got it open yet, but is your stuff going to come up? Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Not opening up. There we go. Come on. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys have a special security that everything at Country Day is taped, huh? Or is recorded. So yeah. I hit the wrong button. That was my error. Okay, here we go. All right. Thank you. Sending. Okay, so if you tell me, I will write in here. So this was, Maddie, you were the first person, you were like the first presenter on the illegal immigrant?
Brittany was for illegal immigrants and for minimal health care. And then I was for illegal immigrants and against minimal health care.
Okay. All right. So in what you did was the against presented first because Brittany had already written it up.
Right.
Is that okay? All right. So you kind of made a variation on the. Yeah, but that's fine. It's just a variation, you know. Okay. It'll be interesting when we talk about the process. Okay. So the first question of conversation is about the searching for and use of the content. So minimal health care, like the right to minimal health care, that was the full question, I believe. And then right to illegal immigrants, right to health care. So in terms of access to sufficiency of content available, forming of a question. I mean, how did not the actual back and forth process, but how did you feel about the information that you were working with? Were you like, but I need to know whatever. Or were you like, oh, no, I've got information here. How did you both feel about that? Maybe Brittany should go first since you did the first presentation.
Yeah, I was just wondering because it seemed to me like it came down to a really financial issue. Like, everyone wants to give everyone health care, but it just came down to financial, I thought. So I thought it'd be really helpful to just, I mean, it seemed like they tried to give you a lot of numbers, but I thought it'd be just helpful to see, like, a chart that said, hey, look, this is how many people, how many immigrants pay taxes, how much they pay in taxes, how much of those taxes go towards the Affordable Care Act, and then compare that to citizens and kind of get an idea of just be able to compare it to see, because I felt like some people were given like the same statistics. There were some people saying, oh yeah, you can totally make it work financially, and immigrants are actually good for the system, and then there was people saying no, they're not paying enough, or it doesn't work financially. So it'd just be really helpful to see like where the money is coming from, how it's being put back into the system,
Okay.
and how it's being used.
So-
But it's too complicated. I'm not sure you can even do that.
I guess what I'm hearing from you is people make statements about, they say so-and-so is more than such and such, and then they use that for their argument, but you don't know the numbers. Like, is it significantly more? What is it really more? Did they choose one source of data as opposed to another source of data? So is that am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, I think so. And also, like, just when I see, I just don't understand how the numbers could work when they say, only 7 million of the 11 million are workers and only half of them pay the taxes. But then they also said that illegal immigrants as a whole constitute a surplus, or at least, Maddie said that down lower, and it said in the book. And so I'm just wondering, like, how that can work, I guess.
Okay, so some internal conflicts in the statements as well.
Yeah.
Like, conflicting within the data sets or the content information sets.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maddie, what did you find in terms of, like, you're very good about like going to other sources and whatnot, but if you were evaluating what you were given here, how did you find did you find yourself satisfied with the information, wanting more, overwhelmed with too much? What?
I thought for the illegal immigrant section, it had good information, but but it was kind of like Brittany said, it was kind of like broad. It was just numbers, I guess, and some of the information they gave kind of like not contradicted itself, but like it kept saying like most immigrants that came to the U.S. were young, so they were unlikely to have major diseases besides pregnancies. Like, that was the only medical thing I think they said would happen. But I don't know, I guess Pence didn't like use any proof to prove that, and it was kind of like a broad thing he like kept saying was like, well, they're young, so they're not going to have that many medical problems. And I don't know, I feel like he might have left it to like a lot of numbers to kind of avoid making it politically sided, because I feel like if he got into it morally about how, or like why illegal immigrants should have access to public health care or why they shouldn't, I think it would have been too political, and then he would have had to like change everything, like all the other sections he would have had to like do the same thing, I guess.
Fair enough.
It would have just it would set you up to like see how he would think, I guess, and like what his views are.
Anybody thinking that Maddie has like hit on a theme of using this resource? Nick?
Yeah, because medical ethics in and of itself, it's not a subject that lends itself well to splitting evenly, down like, I guess, political lines, because the issues themselves are controversial, and we're looking at why they're controversial and how we can tie that into ethical theory and things like that. So in trying to discuss things that have previously been discussed as controversy and not really formalized into objective academic text, it's really hard to balance, presenting it in a useful, disaffected manner while still making it something you can actually discuss. There's very few resources that aren't polarized that could support those citations.
Okay. Did you feel? I mean, I'm curious. Beyond Brittany and Maddie, just as a general conversation, we have time enough to get off the track a little bit here. Did you feel that there was a bias, a trend apparent in the reading that you've done in this book? Go ahead, Maddie.
I think in the illegal immigrants and the healthcare portions, like he either like the favoring section was longer or the section where he was against it was longer, and then the other and then the opposite was shorter, and you could kind of tell like what he advocated for. Like I feel like he advocates against illegal immigrants having access to public health care, but access to public health care, but I think on like he was and I think he was for minimal health care. I'm not really sure. But
so in some cases you saw the bias or the clear tendency, let's even say that, because bias implies that maybe he's not thinking clearly, but in an opinion, I'm just saying you see a given opinion, and in other places you're not so sure. What do other people think? Like even throughout the year, I'm curious. I'm letting us get a little stray here for a minute. When you were reading from this book, you're like, yeah, if I sat down across across the coffee shop table from this guy, I would, pretty much know a lot about him already. Jasmine?
Yeah, I definitely felt the trend of using a lot of numbers and stuff to kind of shy away from bias, but you can still kind of see the bias through a lot of the text, depending on what he talks about. But he usually tries to stick to numbers to kind of downplay that.
I mean, I think that the tone is not. You'll find that the tone in Moreno, you're going to find a lot more blatantly political, and opinionated. But I think his tone was subdued, but there's still an inherent sort of thread of sensitivity that means X. If you're sensitive, and if we think sensitive is good, then we think this is good too. It's interesting. Maddie?
Well, yeah, because I think that if he had just kept it numbers and like made it a chart or something, then you really wouldn't be able to tell a political bias. But because it's like written out and his, like you said, his tone, you can kind of tell.
Okay. All right. How about in the issue of minimal health care, right to minimal health care for Americans? I'm not phrasing it exactly the same way, but how did you feel about that one? You said maybe it was less obvious what the opinion was, but was the information any less rich?
Yeah, I didn't think there was as much information.
Brittany, did you feel well served by the text? Did it give you what you needed?
I thought it was really weird that he spent so much time with Rawls and Nozick, like as if it seemed like kind of an appeal to authority that he was talking about, social contract theorists kind of thing. And then like I understand like how it fit in, but it just seemed weird that he would spend so much time talking about them and then like refuting their basic theories as opposed to just getting into like how it applies to healthcare. And it just it just seems like you shouldn't just talk about Rawls for a paragraph. It just doesn't seem like it does anything. You should just get into how it would apply instead of even mentioning him really.
Okay. He did revert to some of the more academic educational background tone that he had earlier. Sam, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I was going to say that I totally agree with Brittany. I was also sort of thrown off by that when I was reading it because it just seemed odd because he was able to really argue each side for pretty much everything else using like significant information that he was arguing, but it seemed that he was sort of making somebody else's argument in that passage. So I just found that odd.
Okay, fair enough. And I think you're right that it was in contrast. Is it meaningful or is it helpful to look at like the different questions that were being covered there? You know, the idea of generational conflict and, you know, all the different possible topics that we had, most of which we didn't cover. Let me open that up just to help me. Okay, we have a lot of different questions that were asked, right? But is it fair to say, or do you think it's meaningful to suggest that is minimal health care a right is kind of like the question of all questions in this topic? It's like the deepest of all of these issues, and all the rest of these are kind of like side or you know, sort of borderline questions. Am I making sense? Brittany?
Yeah, I think just real quickly, I think that like maybe not necessarily is it a right, but like how much health care is a right? Because I think that I don't think anyone here is going to say that you can just leave someone to die on the street after getting hit by a car or something. I think it's just like, at what point do you cut them loose, and at what point do you let them die because they can't afford it or whatnot?
So yeah, the question could use some wordsmithing, no doubt. But I still think this idea of like the minimal care that is appropriate, that is morally imperative, is like this big giant question, and these other ones are like things that come up. Are we going to be efficient about it? What are we going to do about people who aren't really citizens? What are we going to do about different age groups? And, you know, so I'm wondering if, I'm only saying that because I'm suggesting that maybe, who knows, maybe that's why he gets all theoretical about it, you know, gets all historical and looks back to Rawlsian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think part of why he has to get philosophical about it is that I think even just outside of the bioethical implications of it, I don't really think there is like a quantized like units of like health. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's like a Google project where they're working on it. And I mean, you know, we understand what like healthy ranges are for, you know, sort of like biostatistics, like where your, you know, blood pressure should be, like, you know, how much body fat should you have on you and stuff like that. But there's not really a standard for like, what is the minimum required to be as healthy as possible. And furthermore, there's no, not only is there not such a standard, but there's not one that you can input, you know, like individual health quirks and then adjust that to figure out what that exists as. So I think part of why he has to revert to the ideals and sort of philosophical tangents
ideals, yeah,
is that there's not really any sort of you know, minimal healthcare standard to, you know, discuss in and of itself, let alone how would that play out ethically. So
the inherent vagaries of the question. Okay. That's interesting. All right. Well, that's. I mean, I'm suspicious that that's what's going on there, but you know, I can't get in his head either. All right. So back to your contribution here. All right. So how about the process of back and forth? Now, and you guys, in your situation, you did it a little differently. Brittany kind of just did what she did and shared that. And then, Maddie, you were in a position of responding in the opposite. So I guess the question goes to Maddie then. Was there any sense of, oh, dang it, I would have rather, not that what you believe in your heart of hearts, but like, do you think there's a better argument? Because sometimes what we believe in our heart of hearts is not, we don't really have that argument. We haven't really done the clear analysis of it yet. So I'm not trying to get personal, but I'm just saying, did you feel like, that there was one argument better or worse, and you had to sort of like fill in the less strong at all?
I thought the healthcare one, the minimal healthcare one, was kind of more difficult. More because like I didn't know much about it in the first place, and then he didn't really give much information. So, okay, like on number 4, I looked it up. I looked up the healthcare benefits at McDonald's. But that was the only thing I needed. That was like the only thing I needed to use an outside resource for, because I'm not really. I think that if I had looked it up, it would have made it 10 times more confusing. So I just kind of, because it kind of like, I don't know, healthcare kind of confuses me. So I don't know. But the illegal immigrants thing was, I don't know, maybe because we live in Texas, it's something we hear about a lot. So I kind of knew more about it. So that one was easier for me to argue for or against.
Because you've probably heard both arguments a lot, just by living where you live. Yeah. I think actually it'd be interesting. That'd be a nice thing to sort of hear from different people from different parts of the country. I think it's a giant issue for all of us, but some states it's just more like around Pennsylvania, there's this silent, it's a very silent issue. It's giant, but it's silent, right? There's Lancaster County has a lot of agricultural history, and some of it is very corporate connected, some of it's very private in sort of a closed Amish community, and some of it's private in a not closed community. So I think it's just, we don't hear a lot about it, but it's still like right there. And I'm just curious about other parts of the country. What's Western Pennsylvania like, Sam?
There's not really much talk about it here because it doesn't really influence us.
Because you're in the least agricultural part of the state, more other resources, right? Mining resources, etc.
Mm-hmm. Since Pittsburgh is so, what I like to think about Pennsylvania is there's Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and then Pennsylvania. Like, it's just it's a different place.
Yeah, it is.
To be in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. It's really more like a Western state. Like in Montana, there's Eastern Montana and Western Montana, and they're so different, or even the coastal states. But Pennsylvania is really, it's big enough that it's really more like that. Although Delaware, tiny little Delaware, has this sort of, we have our segments, our microcosms too. How about in Florida? Do you feel like you were comfortable enough or whatever, versed enough in two sides of an argument just by hearing the media?
I'm not sure how good Florida media is. It's kind of iffy.
So you hear stuff, but you're suspicious. You think it's more okay.
We also don't hear much about like illegal immigrants as much as somewhere like Texas, because I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is it possible? Now I'm just going to throw out a suggestion. Is it possible that there's other issues that displace it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm not sure. Like there are definitely issues, but it just doesn't. There is definitely there's a there where in Philadelphia and the surrounding area, but it's not discussed much. Who did I miss? Tell me about California, Brittany.
I mean,
you're not in the Central Valley. You're pretty far away from the Central Valley.
Yeah, and like I have friends there, and I have friends in or people I know where we go down to like SoCal and stuff, and I have family in SoCal, so it's just really different everywhere, I think. And in SoCal, there's definitely a lot of talk about the immigrants. Like if you go to San Diego, I mean, you walk into a Costco and they greet you in Spanish. So, yeah.
So this is really a question. This would be a great segue to this idea of politics, right? I mean, politics and media. I think those two things are just unavoidable, but they're also unfortunate sort of inputs into the mix. Do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think one way you could sort of connect issues that are on the same wavelength or subject matter as issues in Texas, at least that we've been exposed to, could be not necessarily about the immigration or the immigrants themselves, but the sort of population they represent. Because the same sort of ideas about like, I'm trying to phrase this politically correctly, like the unruly behavior of, just like an undesired or,
No, it's controversial.
Yeah.
Whether it's accurate or not, it's still a controversy.
Yeah, but it's that same perception that the illegal immigrants come in and they take jobs or they commit crimes or exploit American resources, and it's that same sort of seedy sort of tone that comes in when you talk about like welfare, the welfare state and the people who live off it, and that same sort of
Yeah, I mean, it becomes socioeconomic. It's the socioeconomic imposition on pretty much everything in life. Alrighty. Well, there's a cheery place to wrap up, right? So any other thoughts from Maddie and Brittany on the process? Do you feel like you could keep going on it? Like you could have kept going back and forth a number more times, or?
Yeah, okay, on page 343 in the book, there's like, he actually talks about 2 hospitals in Dallas. And like, I don't know if Brittany experiences this in California, because I guess she was the only one that said it sometimes, like, immigrants are sometimes an issue, but I know that like there are certain hospitals where you can go into the ER and wait several hours because they just take everyone and anyone, regardless of the medical issue. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. That was just kind of interesting. That was one other thing I wanted to point out.
So you have personal experience or you can relate. Yeah. Alrighty. And how about the process though? Did you feel like in going back and forth twice, was there enough there to sort of, do you feel like the 2 arguments were presented and that's where they are? Or do you feel like by going back and forth more, you could get to more clarity? Or is it just kind of like keep slapping it back and forth like ping pong, or tennis or something?
I think we could keep arguing.
Would it go to? Would it be you could keep arguing and it would get to more clarity, or you could keep arguing and it? Okay, all right, because it did seem like we were just barely getting into these topics. All right, so let me double check with everybody that everybody's clear on basically a reading notes assignment, for lack of a more creative word. For Monday on the introductory chapter from this book, and then formulating a set of questions for discussion that would be broad enough for, even if we had a visitor to the class, which I think perhaps, is it Monday? It's either Monday or Wednesday. We are going to have a visitor to the class one day. So, your questions don't have to be, they're not questions like, do you remember what the guy said on this page? These are not reading quiz questions. They're exploration questions, and feel free to, sort of like do some analogizing or some comparing or whatever with other things. If you want to take us off into a little bit of a tangent, that would be okay. That would still be fine. So I'm not grading the questions based on, well, it doesn't look like you read what you were supposed to read, right? I'm more grading them. I'm more asking you to bring some of your curiosities to the table. Make sense? Okay, and then double check for your dates of conflicts and when things are getting crazy or busy towards the end of April, so you can choose a day. Think ahead too. Like you need to be available ahead of that time in order to prepare, because that's when you're going to be doing your research. Unless you're like Jasmine, you can go to the debate files and like open it up. All right, maybe somebody needs to go like have her send some of her debate files to you. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend. Good holidays to everybody.